Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. You either obey me or start packing. That was it. That was the sentence that ended the version of my life I thought I understood. She said it without flinching, without raising her voice, just loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. And they did. Every last person at that long oak table with their overpriced wine and their polite little forks full of roasted duck paused mid-bite. I didn't move. I couldn't. My knees locked beneath me. My face. It burned. I could feel it, like it was trying to evacuate my skull. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. She didn't look back. Her name's Margot. But that's not important right now. What matters is that I had no idea who this woman was in that moment. Even though I lived with her, shared bills with her, folded her laundry 3 days ago. The dining room went quiet. You know that kind of silence that happens after someone drops a glass, but worse? It was that, but stretched out and dressed in judgment. All I could hear was the clink of a spoon hitting porcelain at the far end. She sipped her wine. Someone coughed. Someone else, I think her coworker Rory, let out the saddest, most awkward huh I've ever heard. And I just stood there, holding a dessert plate with a slice of pie I didn't even want. Let me be clear, I wasn't angry. I wasn't shocked. I was embarrassed. My brain ran through every possible explanation. Was this a prank? Was she drunk? Was she testing me in front of her friends for fun? But she never laughed. She never cracked. Her expression was cold. I don't even remember what color her dress was, just the way she wiped the corner of her mouth like she'd just finished some chore. I sat down. Slowly. I couldn't make a scene. Not in front of her team. Not in front of her new boss. I'm not the kind of guy who makes scenes. I'm the guy who apologizes to furniture when I bump into it. After dinner, she acted like it never happened. As we drove home, she hummed to a song on the radio. I sat there staring at the traffic light, gripping the wheel like it owed me answers. And then she said something that made my skin crawl. You embarrassed me with your silence, she said. I gave you a chance to show strength. Strength? This was the same woman who once cried because a squirrel looked cold. Now she was testing me like I was a lab rat in front of colleagues. I didn't say anything back. I just drove. But something shifted in me that night. Not in a bold, cinematic way. It was smaller, like a thread had snapped inside my chest. Quiet, barely noticeable, but irreversible. That night, I didn't sleep. And by morning, I had a plan. Not a big one. Not a strong one. Just enough. I was going to find out what this was really about. And what I found. Let's just say it didn't start with dinner, and it didn't end in that house. The next morning, Margot made pancakes. I know that sounds harmless, maybe even sweet, but to me, it felt like psychological warfare. She didn't make pancakes. Ever. She was more of a protein bar and leave me alone kind of person. And now she was humming in the kitchen like the previous night hadn't happened. Like she hadn't commanded me to obey or start packing in front of half her department. She served them without a word. Just placed the plate in front of me with that same tight-lipped expression she wore when she organized our garage alone and claimed I would have just been in the way. I stared at the pancakes like they might be poisoned. Not literally. Margot wasn't dangerous. But she was unpredictable now. Calculated. It wasn't anger I felt. It was fear. Not fear of her. Fear of realizing I might have spent the last 6 years in a fake marriage without even knowing it. When she left for work, she left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. That never happened. Margot guarded her laptop like it held state secrets. She even password protected her grocery lists. I know I shouldn't have. I really do. But something in me said, you don't get many windows like this. I opened it. There wasn't a password prompt. Strange. Almost like she wanted me to. I clicked into her browser history. My hands were shaking. And that's when I saw it. A private folder synced to a cloud account I didn't recognize. The title? Clean Exit, Contingency. My chest tightened. I clicked it. Emails. Drafts. Spreadsheets. Messages to a woman named Kendra, apparently her friend from grad school, talking about Plan B, legal consultations, housing options in Portland, and most disturbing of all, a line that read, once he folds publicly, I'll get full leverage. I reread it 3 times. Once he folds publicly. That dinner wasn't an accident. It was a setup. She wanted me to look weak. So she could use it. For what, a divorce? Alimony? Control? I didn't know. But I knew enough. This wasn't my wife. Or maybe, this had been her all along. I didn't touch anything else. I didn't copy the files. I didn't forward them to myself. I just sat there staring at her open laptop like it was some kind of cursed object. The words on the screen burned into my brain. Once he folds publicly, I'll get full leverage. That wasn't just cold. That was war. Calculated, intentional, rehearsed cruelty. I didn't even hear her come back into the house. She forgot her ID badge, something that never happened before. Maybe I should have closed the laptop and acted natural. But I froze. Like a complete idiot, I sat there, hands still on the trackpad, when she walked in and saw me. Her eyes didn't widen. Her lips didn't part. She just stopped in the doorway and stared for half a second too long before saying, "So you opened it?" I tried to speak, tried to lie, but my voice cracked. It was open. I didn't mean to. "You did," she cut me off. Calm. Like she wasn't even mad. Like she expected it. "And now you've seen it." She walked over, closed the laptop slowly, and took a step back. "So, what are you going to do now, Lowell?" I didn't have an answer. My heart was pounding, my throat dry. I felt pathetic, like a child who'd just gotten caught going through a drawer labeled "Don't." Then she said something even colder than the line at the dinner. "I deleted the video, by the way. The one you would have found in the folder last night if I hadn't anticipated your snooping." My stomach flipped. "What video?" I asked, already knowing I didn't want the answer. Her eyes lingered on mine, not blinking. "Of me. In Seattle. With someone who isn't you." I just stared at her. My mind couldn't even form images. It was like my imagination shut down to protect me. I didn't ask who. I didn't want to know. Not yet. "I left the laptop open for a reason," she continued, brushing invisible lint from her sleeve. "You need to catch up to where I am. I'm tired of dragging you along. You've been slow." Slow. That word hit harder than anything else. She walked out again like she had just reminded me to take out the trash, not like she had dropped a nuke on our marriage. And I stood in the kitchen with a cold plate of pancakes, wondering if my life had just ended in the most polite, premeditated way possible. I didn't eat. I didn't move. Hours passed, and I just sat there, staring at the floor like it owed me answers. Every sound outside felt like an echo of something broken, like the garbage truck crunching down the street was chewing the remnants of my dignity. Margot hadn't called, hadn't texted. She was at work, probably sipping espresso and discussing quarterly numbers while my world sat tilted sideways. By noon, I opened the laptop again. This time, I didn't hesitate. I dug deeper, not because I wanted more pain, but because I needed the truth to stop hiding. The folder "Clean Exit" contingency was gone, wiped completely. But she'd missed something. Buried in her downloads folder was a compressed zip file titled "im_archive." It wasn't password protected. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Some looked innocent at first. Work events, hotel lobbies, smiling group selfies. But the timestamps told another story. One series was taken in Seattle, just last month. Same outfit she wore when she claimed she was visiting her sick aunt. The man beside her wasn't just a coworker. Not with his hand low on her back. Not with the way they looked at each other when they thought no one was watching. He was tall, clean-cut, maybe early 40s. I zoomed in on one photo where they stood beside a rental car, and the way she looked at him, it gutted me. That gaze used to be mine, before everything got so one-sided. Before I turned into a man who asked permission to be heard. I clicked through more images. Same man, same smile, different cities. A second folder had been auto-synced to the cloud, and this one wasn't wiped. Inside was a draft message, unsent but clearly rehearsed. "Lowell won't take it well. That's why I need to make him the unstable one first." Unstable. She was building a narrative. I realized then that this wasn't just betrayal. This was strategy. Calculated image control. She wasn't just leaving me. She was framing my collapse. That's when I started forwarding everything to myself. Quietly. Carefully. Because if she was building a story, then I had to build one too. That night, I pretended to sleep. Margot came home late. Not late enough to justify traffic, but late enough to suggest she didn't care how obvious she was being anymore. She didn't even look surprised to find me on the couch. She just stood in the hallway, still in her blazer, eyes scanning the room like she expected something to be different. Like I'd flipped a table, or packed my bags, or left her a handwritten monologue taped to the fridge. I gave her nothing. She went upstairs without a word. I stayed in the dark, scrolling through the forwarded files on my phone. Not just photos and emails, but notes she'd written to herself. Therapy-style reflections. One stood out. It read, "Don't let him flip it on you. Control the narrative. Let him be the one who breaks down. It'll make the exit clean. I had no idea who she had become, or if this version had always been there, waiting for the opportunity. I used to think love died quietly, slowly fading over time like a song you forgot was playing. But Margot didn't let love die. She buried it alive and left signs just clear enough for me to find, like she wanted me to discover the rot, to lose composure, to snap. But I wasn't going to break. Not yet. The next day, I called out of work. She left like usual, barely glancing in my direction, and I waited exactly 20 minutes before calling someone I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. Dylan, my cousin, the family disappointment until recently. He used to hack vending machines in college. Now he consulted in cybersecurity, which, knowing Dylan, could have meant anything from building encryption software to helping bitter spouses gather digital dirt. I told him everything. He didn't interrupt once. Just muttered Jesus a few times and then said, "Give me access. I'll look deeper." By evening, he sent me a file I hadn't seen before. Something buried under layers Margot thought she had cleaned. It was an audio clip, crackly, like a phone call recorded on speaker from across the room. But it was her voice, and his, the man from the photos. She was laughing, and then, her voice lowered. She said something that stopped my breath cold. "If I push him just right, he'll make it easy. I don't need the marriage. I need the narrative." I must have listened to that audio clip 20 times. Her voice wasn't just confident, it was rehearsed. Like she was reading a script she'd edited over and over. And the man? He didn't say much. Just murmured things like smart and clean move. Like he wasn't sleeping with someone's wife, but helping orchestrate a takedown. I couldn't believe how cold she sounded. Not angry. Not desperate. Just detached. Like my role in her life had expired, and now she was clearing out the clutter. "If I push him just right, he'll make it easy." That line kept looping in my head. I didn't know what hurt more, that she was done with me, or that she wanted me to destroy myself for her convenience. I didn't cry. I expected to, but there was nothing left to cry out. Just a dull, gnawing pressure behind my ribs, the emotional version of a bruise that never healed right. I called Dylan again, told him I needed everything, not just the surface stuff. If she was plotting something more, legally, financially, socially, I needed to know. He hesitated but agreed. Said it would take a few more days. Said he'd keep it off the grid. I trusted him, mostly because I had no one else left. That night, Margot came home early. She had wine, my favorite kind, which she hadn't bought in over a year. She was dressed softer than usual, hair down, no makeup. It wasn't an accident. She knew I knew. She sat beside me on the couch like everything was fine. Like we hadn't declared war silently across the last 3 days. "I've been thinking," she said, pouring the wine. "Maybe we need to reset. You and me. A short trip, maybe. Somewhere quiet." I looked at the glass. I didn't touch it. She continued, "We're both tense. I overreacted the other night. You were caught off guard. Let's not spiral over one bad moment." One bad moment? This woman had an entire exit strategy labeled and cataloged. "I think we're past the reset phase," I said, and my voice cracked right where I didn't want it to. Weak. Shaky. She smiled, not kindly. Almost satisfied. And that's when I realized. This was part of the plan too. I didn't take the wine. I didn't argue. I didn't flinch. And that unnerved her more than any confrontation could have. She sat there holding her glass, smiling like nothing was wrong, but I saw her eyes scanning me, waiting for me to react. Waiting for me to yell, accuse, break something. She wanted a scene. She needed it. Her whole exit hinged on me being the unstable, emotional husband who couldn't handle the stress. But I'd seen behind the curtain, and I knew now that silence wasn't weakness. It was evidence control. I told her I was tired and went upstairs. She didn't follow. That was the strangest part. She just stayed on the couch, sipping wine and scrolling her phone like she hadn't been caught planning psychological warfare. Upstairs, I checked my email. Dylan had sent a message titled, "You're not crazy." Attached were screenshots. A shared calendar invite between Margot and a woman named Cassandra, a divorce attorney. The title of the calendar event? Leverage Strategy, Phase 2. In the notes, bullet points outline things like gaslight gently, not aggressively. Use emotional inconsistency to trigger outburst. Document his reactions. Screenshots if possible. Consult Cassandra Re. False narrative plausibility, emotional distress angle. I wanted to scream, to tear down the walls. But I didn't. Instead, I opened a blank document and started writing everything down. Dates, quotes, conversations. I backed it up to an encrypted drive. Because if she was building a case, I needed a defense and a counterattack. But I still didn't know what her endgame was. Was it just divorce? Was there money on the line I didn't know about? Or had it all just become a sick game to her, seeing how much she could destroy without getting her hands dirty? That night, I pretended to sleep again. And just after midnight, I heard her slip into the room. She stood at the door for a long time, watching me, breathing. Then she whispered, soft, almost rehearsed, "I know what you're doing," and walked out. The next morning, I wasn't pretending anymore. I was calm, too calm, probably. Margot watched me from across the kitchen like she couldn't decide if I was dangerous or pathetic. Maybe both. But I didn't give her anything. No stares. No tension. Just routine. I ate toast. Checked my phone. Took out the trash. It drove her nuts. She followed me to the doorway. "So what now?" she asked, arms crossed. "I'm moving forward," I said. "I'm not interested in war." She blinked, confused. "That's it. For now." I left before she could start spinning it into something else. I'd already made my real move the night before. I sent everything Dylan and I had gathered to a lawyer. Not for revenge. Not to destroy her. But to protect myself. I wanted documentation. Leverage. A clean slate. And that afternoon, something miraculous happened. I got a call. A quiet voice on the line introduced herself as Cassandra, the lawyer Margot had met with. Turns out she'd been sent the wrong files by mistake. She reviewed them. She saw the manipulation, the outline, the cruelty. "I've ended my professional relationship with your wife," she said. "And I just wanted you to know, not everyone supports what she's doing." That night, Margot was quiet. And for the first time in weeks, I slept in peace. A week later, I moved out. Not in rage. Not in humiliation. But in quiet relief. I found a small apartment near the river. Started journaling again. Took evening walks. Even signed up for an amateur chess league at the community center. Life became mine again, one step at a time. She tried texting once. I didn't answer. Some people fight back with fury. I fought back by healing, on my own terms. And that, in the end, unraveled her control more than any outburst ever could. Thank you for watching this story on Reddit Confessions. If you've ever witnessed a moment in history where someone took back control without violence or chaos, we'd love to hear about it in the comments. Maybe a peaceful protest, a surprising political move, or a quiet revolution no one saw coming. Let's talk about those powerful turning points. And don't forget to subscribe for more.